To call this Monday, March 4th, school committee business meeting to order. Mrs. Yell, will you take the roll, please?
Mayor Reardon?
Here.
Sarah Hall?
Here.
Kathleen Shaw?
Here.
Juliet Walker?
Present.
Brian Callahan?
Here.
Andrew Bolger?
Present.
And Brianna Higgins is absent.
All right, before we get started tonight, I just wanted to mention a community member that we lost last week, Reverend Helen Mergida. Reverend Helen was an affiliate minister at the First Religious Society Unitarian Universalist Church here in Newburyport. And she was on the way to our State of the City address on Wednesday and was tragically hit by a car crossing Green and Pleasant Street. This has been a tremendous loss for our community, and I can tell you Thursday and Friday were my two toughest days that I've had in office so far. So there's still a lot of healing going on. I know not only for community members, but church members. I know city staff, all who were very present on Wednesday night. So I guess I'd like to start with a moment of silence for Reverend Helen. Thank you. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I'd like to turn it over to Vice Chair Hall.
Thank you. There were no sign-ups for public comment. Was there anyone here who wished to do public comment tonight? All right, then we'll move on to our...
Actually, I'm sorry, can I say one more thing?
Oh, please.
Sorry. Obviously, I've had a couple emotional couple days, but I did want to say a couple things about Reverend Helen real quickly. I wanted to bring her up tonight because she had a huge impact for education. She worked in special ed for over 30, almost 40 plus years, all over the state, impacting thousands of lives. Again, she kind of found her way to Newburyport. She was originally from Somerville, but came up here, and kids in special ed was her passion. So I think it's important that we bring her up here tonight. She was involved with the HRC and a lot of the, whether it be the IFTAR or Juneteenth. She looked for ways to get involved with her community. And that night, she was heading to City Hall for me. She wasn't even scheduled to be there that night, but we had someone come down with COVID, and she's like, yep, I'll be there. And that's what she was doing, because that was the type of person she was. So I'm sorry I didn't mention that right off the bat, but I did want to say that about Reverend Helen. And again, she'll be very, very, very missed. So thank you for letting me get that in.
Okay, it's time for our student recognition.
Okay. Well, by the audience participation, I think we have a celebrity in the house, so. All right. As we always do in the beginning of our school committee meetings, we recognize some extraordinary students and student achievement, along with recognizing staff. And tonight we're going to be recognizing an amazing student, and I'm really excited to let you all know why we're going to be recognizing Robbie Edwards. So Robbie Edwards is a third grader at the Bresnahan School. Her teachers describe Robbie as a very sweet, social, and funny student. Robbie's always excited to socialize with her peers and adults each day, and her smile lights up the room as she enters. Robbie participated in the MCAS Alt, which allows her to demonstrate her skills based on alternative achievement standards set by the state. Collected data and work samples of daily instruction throughout the school year in grade 3 in both ELA and math are presented in the MCAS Alt portfolio and sent to the state to determine if the child has met the goals in those subject areas. The data collected also helps to inform instructional decisions and demonstrate student progress in reaching identified goals. Robbie excelled with her reading stand, where she listened to different informative texts and answers comprehension questions about various topics. Informative texts range from different topics as bugs, animals, rocks, and Robbie's favorite, instruments. We are very proud to honor Robbie's achievement because she received a score of exceeding on all the MCAS alt assessments. Robbie received an achievement award for her outstanding performance and was recognized by Commissioner Riley. So congratulations, Robbie, and we're very excited to give you a certificate of excellence. All right, here you go. I might need help getting out.
Take a recess anyways.
All right, let's hold this.
I think you're good.
Are we ready? 1, 2, 3.
Hey, let's hear it one more time for Rob. Teachers?
All right. All our favorite teachers.
Yeah. All our favorite teachers. All right. There you go. We'll rearrange. I'm still holding the points today.
Ronnie Edwards Fan Club.
We'll take a brief recess now? Yeah.
There we go. Meet the There you go.
I didn't see him, but now that you've pointed it out. That's so funny,
Light reading.
Every time you turn to the flag,
Yeah.
I see you on the face.
Yeah, exactly. I have to get him to stop staring at you.
This is concerning. He's creepy on so many levels.
Agenda. So, Mr. Callahan, you're all set with the warrants?
We do have warrants. One warrant. I move that the following named bills of the Newburyport Public Schools amounting in the aggregate $126,899.03 be approved and forwarded to the city auditor for payment. There are no conflicts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have one set of minutes to approve from our last meeting on February 27th. Are there any corrections? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Theo, time for your report.
Thank you very much. Starting at the Bresnahan, the Bresnahan Readathon will kick off next week. One highlight of this event is that every student will be able to attend a library campout during the school day, where they will sit around a campfire and listen to a read aloud and then read in pop-up tents. Parents and older students can also read to the younger students, and thank you to the PTO for planning and supporting this program. At the Mullen Knock, the after-school drama club is back at the Mullen. It is being organized by Stephanie Phillips and Shannon Booth. Stay tuned for the performance of their upcoming production, Seussical. The Mullen is also beginning its planning of the annual STEM Showcase, which allows students to explore their interests and curiosities in the sciences and mathematics. The Knock Middle School has teamed up with Director of School Health Services, Katie Vozeolas. I'm so sorry if I'm saying that wrong, by the way. To provide training for all 7th grade students in hands-on CPR. The program, entitled You Can Save a Life, provides all of the 7th graders during the Advisory Explore block a 4-week training period. Students have hands-on experience with their own mannequin, in addition to learning about the heart and events that may lead to cardiac arrest, and the importance of calling 911 and/or getting an AED. Lastly, at the high school, congratulations to boys hockey and both boys and girls basketball on moving forward in the MIAA tournaments. Boys hockey is now in the Elite Eight and will play Wednesday against Woburn. Boys and girls basketball are now in the Sweet 16. Both will play tomorrow night. The boys will play Tentasqua, again, saying that wrong probably, and the girls will play Watertown. That is all from me.
Thank you, Theo.
Of course.
All right, it's time for the principal's budget presentations. Do you want to kick that off?
We'll kick it
Okay,
off.
thanks.
Okay, so last week we presented the level service budget, and I'm gonna just recap just a couple aspects of that, and then this year we'll have our principals will go first on their budget requests, and then also introduce some of their school council members that could attend tonight. So as we move forward, the goal of our budget is to maintain the foundational programs while investing in reimagined future. And I think what you'll notice about this presentation or this year versus years past is there's less staffing ads, or very, very little staffing ads. And I think over the past 3 years, just credit our school committee for supporting the budget, because we feel our staffing patterns are in a good place for us to continue to move the district forward. So really, you'll see the costs are more in those non-personnel areas that we talked about last week. So the principal presentations, Ms. Sokolowski, Ms. Rossi, Mr. Marcos, and Mr. Wolf will be presenting shortly. And then for this year, because as we said, there's not a lot of additions, I will just review the district areas. Building and grounds, which you all heard from Steve last week, Mr. Burkholm. Health services, curriculum instruction assessment, and special ed and operations. As we said, there's not going to be a lot of adds to that. So last week, we did our level service budget overview. So overall, this is what we talked about, and this is the different funding sources that we went into depth last week. But the city appropriation on the level service, and as we all know, this is the starting point, it's coming in at 6.65. And then the overall budget increase is around a 4.12% of the level service at this time. The aspirational budget, and the principals will get into a lot more detail. It goes up slightly to 7.08%. So annually, the city averages around an 85% allocation increase. And then this year, at this starting point, we're coming in at, I'm sorry, it's 85% typical. We're coming in around at 87% of a city allocation. But all those other funding resources that we talked about last week, the overall budget is up 4.57%. So that kind of lays the groundwork for, I think, a lot of the discussion and the principals' work that they did with their school councils to kind of go through their presentation. And then I'll wrap it up at the end. So, Ms. Doctor, you're up. A little clicker. And there's,
I move, you move.
yeah, you got a little pointer there.
Oh, you're trying to get
Thank you so much. Before I start my presentation on the budget, I would just like to take a moment to thank my school council. We have an amazing group of educators from the Bresnahan and also parents from the Bresnahan, so I'll just list their names and give them a quick thank you. For parents, we have Jillian Giudetti Myers, Kirsten Rowe, Colin Carpenter, John Rickey, Christine Ficara, and Shannon Cormier. And for Bresnahan staff representation, we have John Gangemi, Melissa Doogie, Kelly Garbarino, Molly Farrell, and Stacy Boucher. So they have been instrumental in helping, with our school improvement plan, giving feedback from the parent and staff perspective. We're starting to look at our handbook and, of course, advising with the budget. So we are very proud of the Bresnahan accomplishments and ongoing work. There is a lot that's going on at the Bresnahan, but just to highlight a few of our most recent accomplishments, we've rolled out the iReady math curriculum. We did a pilot last year, and we had the diagnostic assessment last year, and this is our first full implementation year, and already we are loving it. So we're very proud that our teachers chose this program and that we're implementing it, and we're seeing some wonderful work from our students with it. We've also been working on our language-based and strategies-based programs. We have a number of teachers who are being certified in Orton Gillingham, which is just upping our capacity to be able to bring, state-of-the-art education to our students through our landmark outreach professional development program. And we have also continued to deepen our partnerships with NYS and the YWCA and provide our own after-school programs through our Clipper courses, which is an organizational part of the school that we're very excited about, and we're going to continue to hopefully provide after-school enrichment programs to students and provide even more opportunities. So our goals, they're the same goals that you have been seeing from the Bresnahan. The first student learning goal is to utilize student data to guide instruction and measure growth through our DIBELS assessment and through our iReady assessment. We're regularly monitoring student growth and using that data to adjust and adapt. The professional learning goal is to foster a safe, positive, healthy, and inclusive learning environment that enables students, staff, and parents to have positive relationships with one another. We are we have the privilege of having the youngest students in the district. We're teaching them how to be in school, and through our PBIS program, we are working towards the school every day. So for this year's budget investment, I'm looking to add one section of first grade. This is a budget neutral add based on other factors in the budget, retirements, and moving a few things around. We have 8 kindergarten sections right now that are fairly full, and looking at the group of kindergartners that we have in front of us, moving them into 7 sections of first grade might be a little tight, and adding that additional teacher will help that group of students thrive and give them the resources that they need. I'm also looking to proposed to have a monitor on each bus for the AM and PM ride. This is a preventative measure. You know, like I mentioned before, these are our youngest students in the district. They're learning how to be in school. They're learning how to be on the bus, and having a bus monitor on each bus who can extend the PBIS model of positive expectations and continuing the language that we use during the school day would be beneficial and preventative for our students. We have a great partnership with Salter, but unfortunately without having that extra supervision, you know, sometimes things pop up on the bus and they carry into the school day. And as a Bresnahan student, you know, they deserve to start and end their school day with the same expectations that we promote throughout the day. So we're hoping that adding an adult to the bus would help just extend, you know, the beginning of the day and the end of their day with those same supports. And then my final budget request would be just adding some additional supplies and materials to continue the ongoing work with the curriculum that we have in place, the instruction, assessment, and culture work. And that's it for the Bresnahan.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, the bus monitor, I understand the need. I guess, have you seen this? Is this something that's been done in other districts? Have you seen this? I mean, what would what would these people, would they be in addition, would they be staff that are given a stipend typically, or how?
Ideally,
Okay.
yes, that would be, so we do have some bus monitors now currently at the
Okay.
Bresnahan, and that has been a result of either it being a requirement on the student's IEP that they require some support for transportation, or as an implementation due to some sort of issue on the bus. So this, again, when something comes up, we are addressing it and implementing, adding bus monitors, but just looking whole school and all student supports, trying to be proactive instead of adding after there is an issue, having an adult there to promote the positive behavior so that we don't have the issues that, you know, we can see pop up on the bus.
Are the buses that the Bresnahan students are riding on typically just Bresnahan students, or is it a mix of all grades?
They're all Bresnahan students.
Okay.
And they're pretty full.
Yeah. And then I guess sorry, I just asked a follow-on question on the supplies and materials. You said it's specifically for curriculum. Can you expand at all on what types of?
So it's budgeting for consumables. So for our iReady, we do some consumables, which are materials that are used and cannot be used again.
Okay.
Foundations and My View, just continuing with the programs we already have, but just supporting the curriculum with the materials that can't be reused every year.
How many folks, how many monitors are there currently, just out of curiosity?
Right now we have three.
Three.
On 3 different buses.
Out of 7?
We have 8 buses.
8, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. And so the idea would be, and those would all be staff, current staff?
Teachers or IAs. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Sean, that may change depending on, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you? That may change depending on what the Salter contract ends up being, if we're able to remove a bus, right? When we're talking about that?
Yeah, so I mean, we're looking at part of the whole transportation bid, reduce costs in transportation, but this idea, it's not just for just supervision, it's really to tie into the PBIS and really work with our youngest students on those proper behaviors, almost taking all of those social interactions and utilizing those as a learning tool. So as they get older, the idea would be to have, less and less issues on the bus, so.
Is this ever a thing we can do teacher stipended?
Yeah, that's what we're looking at, to utilize our current staff and offer a stipend.
I would just guess that if it was somebody the kids knew instead of
Correct.
a random parent,
Yeah, I
it would
think
be
it's
more
better,
effective.
Yeah. And a lot of the staff.
Not that the random parents aren't well valued.
And we currently have 3 staff that are riding buses right now, tied back into the PBIS and also some special education. So we kind of see I think that was kind of like a pilot this year, like, wow, this is working pretty well. So could we, try to expand it?
so.
Thanks.
Would there be specific training?
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, that's a great question.
And what would that training look like?
So ideally, it would be teachers or IAs choosing to do this role and having it be a stipend so that those adults are already familiar with our school language, the PBIS model, the expectations that we have. We have lunch and recess monitors who are additional staff that come in just for that block of time. So if we were to hire people who were just bus monitors and not with us for the rest of the day, we would provide a training over the summer to give them the language, the tools, and the materials that they would need. So for PBIS, we have a stamp where when we see positive behaviors, children are rewarded with a stamp. We do clipper tickets. You know, if the whole bus is following expectations, they would get a clipper ticket, and so many clipper tickets lead to a reward. So we would make sure that the bus monitors were prepared to, you know, carry that out so it's consistent throughout the children's whole school day.
Thank you.
Is the bus monitors that we currently have, you said 3, are they getting stipend right now? And what's the stipend, I guess? Is it just afternoon or morning, or is it both, or?
The monitors that we have are doing AM and PM, so they ride in the morning and afternoon. And the stipend that they get, we have IAs doing it right now, and it's their hourly rate. And they do timesheets that they, at the end of the week, they turn in to document the rides that they took. And we do have an additional bus, which is a special education bus, which also has 2 monitors. So we have 3 IAs who are on the larger buses, and then we have 2 additional monitors who are on the smaller bus.
So is this a 60,000 number based on what we're already paying them, or is this going to be a different sum next year?
This would be to cover bus monitors for all 8 buses, plus
Okay.
the additional, the other bus.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Okay. We don't have a lot of asks. I'm going to echo what Sean said about the school committee supporting our positions for the last number of years. So we feel like we're in a pretty good place staffing-wise. Some of our accomplishments and ongoing work, it's very well aligned to the Bresnahan, and you'll see that probably all the way up through the Knockin High School. iReady Math, we're doing that as well, and as Jamie said, the teachers are loving it. It's allowing for a lot of exploration and more hands-on, which is great for elementary students. We're continuing with language-based. We have 4 or 5 staff certified in Orton Gillingham. We have another teacher right now that will be fully certified in the Wilson Reading Program. So that's really, I think, it's a major piece that we've worked on for a number of years, and with the work of Deb and with the Landmark consultant, we've come a huge way for providing for different reading profiles for our students that have a variety of different reading profiles. We have a student council this year. It's our first year. Miss Curtis Perret, our assistant principal, is running that. It's been a great success. We love it. And I know she has talked with Katie and Nick about what their school council looks like and what can we do at our elementary level. A big piece that we have been working on, all of us, all of the principals, we've been meeting with the arts team to look at continuing to expand our music and arts program. This year we were lucky to have .8 music, which is the first time in the 12 years that I've been here that allowed Moreland students to have music all year long, every week. And if you went to our concert, it was amazing. They're loving it. They're having a lot of fun. So we want to continue to look at that. We want to look at possibly opening up band and orchestra to 4th grade, and just continuing to try and grow that program so we're starting young, and then the kids are sticking to it as they go through middle school and high school. We are currently in the process of writing our new school improvement plan with our school council, and I should have said their names at the beginning, but Lauren Mahoney is a parent rep who's also here. Thank you, Lauren. Sean Fenn, Lee Curtis Paré, Anna Nair, Kelly Gabarino, and myself. So these are the goals that we are working on right now. It's a work in progress. We will finish our school improvement plan within the next couple months. We got some great input from the parents that are on our school council. We don't have any asks specifically this year. If there's a retirement or something like that, we might look to add an IA to continue to support our special ed programming, language-based programming. Other than that, it's just as it says up there, just continuing to support our curriculum instruction and assessment. That's it.
So Jamie mentioned consumables. At 4th and 5th, do they not have any consumables they have to buy?
Yes. Yeah,
You do?
they do have, yes, they do have consumables. I didn't look at like a number for next year.
Yeah.
We have a number in supplies and materials that I believe would cover any math consumables. We're like good for my view for a number of years. Yeah, you're good for all of it, yeah, okay.
Purchased for a number of years of our
In advance.
assessments, and so what the buildings would be purchasing are for additional students that might come into the district.
She's not picked up on the mic.
We have like workbooks and, that kind of stuff, yeah. Lisa Marie worked out a great deal with us having that stuff way in advance.
I know a little bit about that stuff, yeah.
Yeah, all the stuff.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Boger?
I think a lot of people would be excited to hear about the expansion of the art and music. Can you just speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So we have been talking, as the 4 principals, meeting with the arts and music team, and Mr. Marcos is going to go into a little more detail. But we're looking at, we really want to build it back up, right? We're missing a big high school band, and there's a strings program at 3rd grade at the Bresnahan, so we would love to be able to offer that to 4th grade and just get kids really invested in it. So we're looking at, we're hoping to be able to maybe get a .2 somewhere, which again, Nick will talk about, that then will just allow for our staff to be flexible and fluid. So our arts and music people to be flexible and fluid on what building they might be working in, what age they might be working in, what's their strength, matched with the strengths of the needs of the schools.
So do you, that intimates that, like, the Mullen and the Knox share?
We do.
But do musicians and art teachers come down from the high school as well?
Not yet, but that's part of what we've had some talks about that, yes. Yes, Mr. Marcos, yeah, we share a number of positions, explore teachers, art, yeah, music, PE.
That's great, thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, and just to follow up, so over the years, coming into the district, that was part of the oldest strategic plan, to really invest in the arts and to create more opportunities district-wide. So every year, when we're looking at staffing, I would say, I've been here for 6 years, we've been adding more and more staff to our music and arts program. And then the principals, along with Ms. Ippolito and our Stephanie, district, Phillips, district lead, since the beginning of the school year, is how can we continue to build our program district-wide, at the same time have the ability to share resources. So part of, Mr. Marcos had this great speech, and I'm taking all his thunder from it. But he'll follow up. I just want to say the work of our performing arts team, along with the principals, to really start thinking outside the box in the sense how we can build our music and art program district-wide is this is, I think, a piece of that puzzle. So by adding the additional .2, it has all those teachers as full-time equivalent or full-time teachers, and now they have the ability to move them around and to continue to work. But you can talk about more
Did a
details
great
of
job,
that.
Superintendent.
Thank you.
Gallagher. Appreciate it.
Appreciate
And
it,
obviously
yeah.
Principal Rossi. So again, thanks for having us tonight. We'll start off with just some of the accomplishments and the ongoing work that has been going on at the NOC. So again, to highlight the same things that Principal Sokolowski, Principal Rossi spoke about, just really special ed programming and really highlighting the work on the Orton-Gillingham training. I'm really building a strong language-based program. And again, I think it's a true testament of, Deb's work and some of the legacy, I think, along with many other things that she'll be leaving behind of things that we can continuously build. Also, some of the really exciting things, I think, really center around the Portrait of a Graduate that's been started, obviously over the past couple of years. I look at it as, it was a vision, 4 or 5 years ago, and now it's really becoming operationalized at the building level. And working with Andy very closely on the NEASC accreditation, and just looking at some of the work that's come out of that, has really allowed our teacher leaders to get together and really take this Portrait of a Graduate, and you're going to start to see this kind of input into our teacher goals. So I always go back to, Superintendent Gallagher's, that visionary cone, and all we're doing now is just pulling that Portrait of a Graduate back into that 1 and 2 year goals, and that vision is going to continue, but we're just going to continuously enhance that. And again, it's all formulated by all community stakeholders that have gone through this process over the last handful of years, which I think has really led that teacher leadership piece, not just the impact that it's having on curriculum, but really what it's having on student leadership. We are in the middle of March Madness, which is totally student-centered. This golden shoe hunt that is probably driving some community members crazy. I want to give a testament to Jen Groskin. She's here in a different role today. But Jen Groskin, Tori Lane, Lindsay Green, a lot of my staff, just listening to kids' voices. And you've seen us highlight, a remarkable group of 8th graders that are really leading the way. And I think this really goes, it's the foundation of what the Portrait of a Graduate Newburyport really is. It's all behind students and just listening to them, because myself as an adult, I just get out of the way. So now they just tell me to get out of the way. They run the student council meetings. I'm just really proud of what they're doing. So those are just some of the highlights that we have going on at the NOC. Definitely want to highlight my school council. I was going to embarrass them and make them come up here, but Rebecca Cook is here, Brenda Palmisano, Lee Gordon from Adult Rec couldn't make it tonight, but Kathleen Petrie is also a part of our team. And, we've looked at the school improvement goals. This is year 2.5-ish of this, so we'll be looking to update it next year or towards the end of next year. And again, really incorporating a lot of what the Portrait of a Graduate is and what it looks like at the middle school. Again, being a part of that teacher leadership team with Andy's group up at the high school really help us formulate, not maybe just new and improved goals that align with the vision more clearly. So when we look at, some of the asks that we have, again, we can't thank you enough at the middle school and across the district, obviously, with all the support that you guys have given us over the past handful of years. Speaking as a parent that lives in a district that's very similar to Newburyport, $1.2 million have been cut from my town's district over the past budget over the past 4 years. So we've been able to add positions because, obviously, how much support we've had from you guys. So that's from school adjustment counselors, to music teachers, to world language teachers, to countless, positions across the district. So again, I want to just say thank you. But just to speak a little bit about that music teacher. So you can imagine when you have, essentially 3 different start times, 4 very different schedules, being able to use staff across 4 buildings, 3 buildings, but 4 schools, is really a very, very, difficult task. But, working with Assistant Superintendent Polito and Stephanie Phillips, and really our whole music department and performing arts department, and looking at schedules, this is what they teach, and they're giving us feedback. So working very collaboratively, myself, Andy, Tara, and Jamie. So when you look at what we had, last year at the moment was a 0.5. That increased to a 0.8, like Tara said, has been able to increase the amount of music students are getting, everyday music. What this point two would potentially do for us is looking at schedule is we'd be able to build on the strings program that's already established at the Brez. Some other things that would allow us to do is some flexibility at the 8th grade level. We have a large group of students, about 15, that are in band that would be very interested next year, so our incoming 8th graders, in potentially doubling the size of our marching band. So we would go essentially from 15 to 30, and there's some flexibility in our schedule where Andy's F and G block, I'm learning it, okay? Where F and G block falls directly in line with our 8th grade flex block, which is mostly where our music, our band, and our lessons are happening. So that point two gives us some flexibility, again, to increase those numbers and build that relationship in 8th grade for that high school to obviously, continue to grow our numbers back where they were pre-COVID. Did I make the first reference to COVID tonight?
Yeah, you did.
Yes. And then student leadership. Again, just building on a lot of things that we have going on at the NOC. Again, with that vertical alignment, the partnership that has been up at the high school with Ignite, there's some potential where some of that money would help us support that and just build on the things that we've done with Teen Truth through our Leadership Summit #1. Leadership Summit 2 is happening on March 25th, where they're coming back to work with the same group of leaders and really expand on some of the obstacles that students are seeing in the building, and really just finding solutions for those options, for those obstacles. And again, the continue ongoing curriculum instruction, assessment, and culture work. Again, all that stuff is paid for, but again, just being able to look at some small tweaks along the way as we look at budget patterns and where we have some some funds to support that. And I think that is it. Brenda, did I mention your name? Great. Just want to make sure I got everybody. Any questions? Awesome.
Got it covered.
Oh, great.
Ms. Walker?
Can you expand a little more on the leadership summits? Well, I guess on the student leadership program request, I know you touched on it, but
Yep.
can you get into a little more detail what that would cover?
So one of the great things that we found out with the partnership that we had with Teen Summit is our students were able to essentially come up with 10 to 12 obstacles that they see in their day. And then from there, what we did was we narrowed it down to 3 that are very, very attainable, things that we could impact. And I still have the Post-it up in my wall. It's essentially 3 things that really impacted them were time management. So looking at opportunities of could we bring in some funds for some time management workshops, whether they're resources or another being able to pay a stipend, or again, maybe bring in an outside person to do those things. The second thing, which always breaks my heart every single day, is the message that students think they're not enough, okay? And I think that's a societal thing, and I don't know where they get that. But, when we talk about our sense of belonging at the NOC Middle School and throughout Newburyport Public Schools, that just hurts every day when I walk into my office and kids don't think they're enough. So what can we do as a community? And I think bringing people in like a J.C. Pohl, we're bringing in Caleb Campbell, who's a former Marine, former NFL football player, who externally had it all. And he didn't really have it all internally, and he tells his story, and I think those are the things that we're looking to do to try to bring resources like that into our building. And again, just supporting our teacher leaders with potentially some training that they can keep this ongoing, similar to the Ignite program that's going on at the high school. So just the sustainability of that program.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
All right, well, thank you for having us here tonight to talk about our proposals for you. But before I just get into that, just to kind of reiterate what the other principals had also commented on, just an appreciation for the support from the committee, the city, and other outside organizations that have just really allowed us to continue moving our schools forward despite the challenges that everybody had experienced through the pandemic. Whereas right now, we're in our first year of the one-to-one program with the iPad devices. We're looking forward to the next round of that for next year and having the technology integrator that can really support the work that the teachers are trying to do in the classrooms with that. You've also heard tonight just about the whole integration of our arts program and just thinking creatively amongst how we're utilizing staff so we can continue to grow those programs, the arts and the music programs. Also, where we've been able to develop more specialized programming at the high school, that has helped us keep more students in district over the past few years. And then also, a few years ago, when you supported us with the development of the College and Career Center. And just to see that program continue to evolve and really allow us to grow our internship program so that students are getting more practical experience before they're making decisions about what they want to do with their time after high school. And then now, with a big emphasis of that, really supporting our advisory program. You heard Mr. Marcos talk a little bit about that as well, where it also extends downward into the middle school also. We're really just giving students that opportunity to reflect on what their passions and interests are and how school connects to that. And then also, you heard the thread from the schools about the student leadership and voice that we're still actively trying to make happen here at the high school and building off of the work that you heard is happening with that at the Mullen and the Knox schools as well. So with that, I do want to acknowledge some members of my school council who are with us here tonight. We have Amber Barberi and Renee Ames, who are two parents on the council. We also have Laurie Kench and Stacy Gisbers, who are also parents on the council as well. And then we also have students, Rourke Lee and Emerson Leahy, students on the council, and they who also couldn't be here tonight are Declan Hawkeiser and Priya Kaur. And then we also have 4 teachers with Chris Kane, Jess Buckman, Dave Clay, and Jill Moran. And to really just to kind of emphasize how important the council is, especially in tonight's presentation and prior presentations, knowing that some of you were part of my council in years past, is really just everything revolves around the school improvement plan. And really kind of thinking on those goals. And our first meeting is about diving into that plan, looking at our performance results, and then it's really about me listening to the conversations that then happen at our meetings. And I really am totally appreciative of my group that I've been working with this year, and in years past too, because they just push me. You know, they push me to think differently. They push me to kind of think about, all right, really, what are the next steps for the high school, and how can I construct my proposal that is still budget-friendly, makes good use of resources, and allows us to continue to push the high school into the 21st century with just the different needs that there are for students nowadays. So they really have been instrumental in that, and sometimes asking me to go and, seek out how other schools are doing things. And that's really kind of what has framed tonight's presentation, which is really just right around kind of our next steps with the school improvement plan. And so really, this year's focus really became an emphasis on access to advanced and technical coursework and access to career paths, recognizing that over the past few years, our performance results have been pretty much flat, especially when it comes into students successfully accessing and successfully completing advanced coursework at our school. And so in just exploring other high schools that have had higher results in those areas, just really trying to understand how they kind of design their programs so that students are able to have more access, even in schools that are smaller than ours. And so that really kind of leads to these kind of requests for this school year that I think will continue to kind of help us push forward in that area. So one of the pieces that we kind of really dug into this school year is learning about what the state has available. And so over the past few years, the state has started what's called the Innovation Pathways Program, which gives schools, traditional schools like ours, with application, access to funding that allows us to build a pathway that can connect students to technical programs and careers, but then also higher level coursework through colleges as well. So this year, realizing that the task is pretty lofty, we applied for one pathway, and we're still in the process. We actually just got accepted into the interview, which we have next Friday, and so we're looking forward to that, and we'll see what happens. But in talking with other schools that have been successful at implementing the State Pathways Program, which is really just around the jobs report that Governor Baker had done a few years ago about the concerns in the job market for Massachusetts. And so the state has framed these pathways around the job market that they're concerned they may not have people to take on. And so the environmental pathway is one of those. But then there's others, such as computer science. There's information technology, which is another one, advanced manufacturing. And so there's several others that we are hopeful to apply for as well if we're successful here. And so that's where the request for the Pathways Coordinator would come into play, just having somebody that's able to oversee these programs, where it does start to give us access to other funding, such as Perkins grant funding, which is typically for your technical type of coursework that you can offer at your school, which we really don't have right now. Pretty much we're as traditional as you can become with just different creative things that we've been able to make happen for our students. But this would really kind of help us get into the game there. And then with other grants that are then available once you get into the technical area as well. Another place that we're putting out here for the request would be the addition of a humanities teacher to help us offer more accessible advanced placement courses in that area. One thing that I do hear quite a bit from our students is, for example, our AP psychology class. So because of other commitments that we need to meet in the classroom, so we are only able to offer one section over the past few years of AP psychology, but we have about 80 or 90 students each year who put in the request. And so with an AP, or with the addition of a humanities teacher, that would give us the flexibility to offer more sections of those types of classes. So for example, in talking to other schools in the Cal, some places where it's almost like every senior who wants to take AP psychology, they are able to take that. Because that's just a very accessible advanced placement offering. AP geography is another one. This year, we piloted, through support from the College Board, an AP pre-calculus class, which is also an accessible AP course, and just with the pilot, we have 12, 13 students who are in it. And it's a math class, it's an AP class for seniors who don't start in geometry their freshman years. So it gives them access to an AP class in their senior year, and we're expecting that we'll have much more students next year who will be taking that class. And so that's where the rationale for the humanities teacher comes into play. But also recognizing kind of the state of budgets across the state. And so one thing, in just looking at my own kind of ability, these two positions we would be able to do at budget neutral, just from consolidation of different programs at the high school, just recognizing that this is a priority for us to try to really make happen and really help us move forward and expand what we're able to offer for all students. The next one, which would not be cost neutral, is the Peterson School program. So one of the pieces that I was asked to really explore was realizing that, all right, we do have obviously we have our partnership with the Whittier School, but every year students apply, but some students, or a decent amount, choose to continue with us here at the high school, but then we don't really have anything to offer them if they really want to explore kind of trades or vocational areas. And so really looking deeper into this, we came across the Peterson School, which usually is a program that takes students after they've finished high school, but want to go into electrical or HVAC or plumbing. And so we had a great meeting. They came to our school. We had 16, 17 students who came to the meeting just to explore the possibility, which also noted to me that there is definitely an interest here for our student population. So the idea here would almost be to run kind of like a dual enrollment program, but for vocational studies. And so that's what we've worked out with the Peterson School, but we also want to be able to subsidize some of the cost of the tuition for students who do have an interest. So where they'd be able to start at the Peterson School the summer after their junior year. So if I was a student who wants to become, after my couple of years at Newburyport High School, I realized, you know what? I really want to go and become an electrician. That they would be able to start the summer after their junior year, start taking courses at the Peterson School, and then their senior year, we would work out a flexible schedule at the high school so they could complete part one of the journeyman's licensure course. And then the rest of it, they would finish beyond high school, but they would be well on their way to working with their apprenticeship once they graduate from Newburyport High School. And so that's really kind of the realm of where our kind of requests come into play. So with the first two, the coordinator and the humanities teacher being cost neutral to the district, and then the Peterson School would be the actual ask in terms of the addition.
I'll go first. Thanks, Principal Wolf. So last year you hired, thank you. Last year you hired a Dean of Special Projects, Jim Antonelli, right? So in my head, I would think something like the Pathways Coordinator might fall under his position. Can you talk a little bit about maybe why it isn't, and is that really a full-time position?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different where the Dean of Specialized Programs really is supporting a lot of our sub-separate program that's keeping students in district. We have a therapeutic learning center, so he's actively involved in that program. We have a life skills program that he also supports, and our alternative school as well that supports students that are at risk of dropping out of high school. Whereas the Pathways Coordinator is really about how we're kind of envisioning it, someone who would still be in the classroom, but having additional time where they would be supporting us being able to expand the pathways. But then also, once you're in these programs, because it comes with the state funding that helps kind of advance technical offerings, there is a lot of data reporting and on monthly meetings that come with the state as well, once you have a pathway. And the idea to expand, ideally to get all 5 over time, would definitely be a pretty involved job. So I do look at it differently than the specialized program instructor or dean. Does that answer your question?
It does. I was more asking, could that fall under something that we already have, opposed to creating something new?
Yeah, definitely 2 different types of positions.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess follow-up is just, do we have any kind of data, like did we survey the students? Do we know how many kids might be interested in those types of things, whether it be the Peterson School or the Pathways, which I'm 100% behind, but I'm just, I get concerned when we just keep adding.
Yeah.
I think cost-neutral things are great, and we made it a point to talk to the superintendent about that last year, but finding savings and eliminating things that aren't successful are great too. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to do something else. That's why I was just curious.
Yeah, with the Peterson School, we definitely had an interest based on the number of students who had participated in the session with the Peterson School. And with our Pathways program, just with the number of students that are already in environmental level classes, that will definitely have a lot of students that would be interested in pursuing that.
Great.
Not sure if this is for you or for you, but when you're saying these positions are cost neutral, adding 2 positions, what is being cut to make that cost neutral?
Yeah, I can answer that. So we do have, currently we have a post-grad program that students will be graduating from, so there'll be some consolidation of resources between that and our life skills program. And that's where a significant support for these 2 positions would be able to come from.
Is that simply because we have a cohort of students aging out of that program?
Correct.
Okay, so it's not because we're eliminating a program, just we don't have a need for it?
Correct.
Okay.
But then we're also able to consolidate other areas of our program in terms of instructional assistance just to make better use of personnel, which would also provide a cost savings.
Great. I'm just thinking about it, if this is just cost neutral this year, or if we're looking at something that's cost neutral moving
No,
forward.
I think for all of our budget holders, it's, I think that's the first thing that we look at is our programming, staffing patterns. And if we can shift allocations, that's what we do. So we know that the students that are aging out, we're gonna have a few years before we have another cohort of students. So this gives us an opportunity to build this program, over the next few years. And then future budgets, we would probably be looking at the, the age 22 program.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on the Peterson School program, do you know approximately what the tuition is for students to participate in that?
So the classes, so the intro level class is something like $1,500, which is that junior summer. And then the courses that would happen during the senior year would come to around $5,000.
Okay, per student. And where does that take place?
So pending on how many, so if we have a certain number of students that are interested in going electrical, they would be able to create a cohort group for us. That would happen on their Haverhill campus.
Okay.
If not, then the courses would happen at their Woburn campus.
Okay. And do we, what happens with transportation?
That's something we would have to figure out, but we
Okay.
have the vans.
Okay.
And so that's what we would be committed to.
Okay, thank you.
Any student who wants to access it, we would make sure they can access it.
Great.
Sounds like a good role for the Pathways Coordinator.
Potentially.
Slash evangelist.
Well, it actually, it does fit into that, only because, so for example, with the environmentals pathway, one of the certifications that Peterson does provide is for wastewater management. And I know we had that, you had set us up with the meeting
right.
with the
Yep.
water treatment, and so that was one of the pieces that we were also thinking about. So it does give students that certification as well.
We have a grade 2 wastewater.
Lapsed.
Oh, lapsed. Lapsed. Oh, sorry, lapsed. I
don't want to misrepresent myself.
I retract that.
Principal, first of all, thank you for working with Principal Marcos and Principal Rossi for hopefully ultimately rebuilding the music program. I think that's really wonderful, and anytime you can merge athletes with artists and musicians in an extracurricular, and I'd like prefer to call it co-curricular opportunity, I think that's really wonderful. I know that's a multi-year effort, so thank you for that, and keep doing that, because there's a lot of musicians in town looking for opportunities. So that's really exciting. Could you just touch on the mayor's point about the Pathways Coordinator? You mentioned that the Innovations Pathways process for state funding, it sounds like you're in like an application process. Would potentially the Pathways Coordinator allow you to access more funding?
Correct.
Yeah. No. And having a full-time person presumably would make that more likely.
Much more manageable. Yeah, because there's other funding that comes, once you kind of get more into the technical the funding that's out there for technical and vocational program, not that we could offer a vocational program here, but there's the capital skills grant funding, which allows you access for just materials you would need on site for machinery or equipment. And so that kind of gives us our in to be able to apply for those as well. And the more pathways you have, the more rationale that you have for that, to be applying for that type of funding.
Right. And one last thing, just on, because it's such a relevant current discussion, the folks the students that came, do you think there's an overlap between the, because we've seen the numbers, students that potentially maybe wanted to go to Whittier and didn't, and then maybe able to access this Peterson program? Do you think there's an overlap there?
Say this to me again? So the number of students who are currently attending?
Yeah, so there's just been a lot of attention to whether students, at what rate students from Newburyport can access Whittier when they want to. So that's a number that exists, right? The number of kids that apply and are not accepted. Do you think, I mean, it's probably likely, and who knows, but do you think that there's an overlap with the kids that could potentially be accessing this Peterson program? The same pool of potential VOTEC students? Does the question make sense?
People who didn't get into Whittier?
Yeah, or do you think this is maybe a secondary population of kids that, I never thought about it, now this is a great opportunity?
I think it's both.
It's
There's
both,
going to be
okay, yeah.
students who either A, they realize, wow, I can do this and stay with my peers and participate. And we have a thriving athletics program, and we're working to really expand our music and arts program. So there's a lot of draw to stay within district.
Absolutely.
And to be able to offer this for them, but then also aligning it with our advisory program. So if it is something that a student had an interest in, but realized, you know what, I'm going to stay at Newburyport High School because I know that I have this option once I get to the end of my junior year, that I could be working towards my path, but not having to wait until I graduate from the high school. And so that's really kind of the rationale. But then you also have students that as they go through their couple of years, they may realize, you know what? I think this is a path I really want to pursue, and just go for it.
Great, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Can I just ask one more thing about the pathways? So the pathways, some of that could be partnering within your community, right? Like with the,
Gulf of Maine.
like businesses, or for some of those vocations, like we talked about, maybe with the water or sewer department or something like that. So if there was funding out there, could this possibly be something that we find funding for in the future that could pay for a position like this?
Potentially, and even some of the grants that you apply for, you can use for part of the
Sure.
salaries as well for these positions. So, which is what the other schools have done, as they've kind of started the application process for the different innovation pathways that are available.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, the whole grant, we're in phase 2 right now, and so we're waiting to see if we get moved forward. Once we get moved forward, then we'll have access to, other opportunities. The one piece that hopefully, if we continue to move forward with the grant, is the capital improvement grant, which really ties into the vision we have for the integrated art space downstairs. So that, for Newburyport, will be a big key for us, potentially up to $500,000 for improvements to fit into the pathway. So we're kind of in that phase, the second phase right now, but moving forward, there'll be additional funding that eventually, this will be hopefully part of DESE in the state. It's really, the idea is we've done a lot of work on dual enrollment for college courses, so a lot of our students are taking college courses while they're in high school. We had, I think a couple graduate with an associate's degree last year with a high school diploma, so this is almost like dual enrollment for vocational. So when those students get to their junior year, and just like, maybe their freshman year in 8th grade, they didn't think they wanted to get into the vocational work, but now, as a junior, it just gives another path for a student that may not, want to be going off to college or to a university. So it's that big vision. In the state, what's great is the state is now backing this and supporting this. So we're in that process right now.
When do you expect to hear?
Hopefully you have your interview next
We have our
week.
interview next Friday afternoon, and then I'm assuming by the end of March or before April vacation.
Right.
And then that really kind of sets us up. If it's a positive result, then obviously then we're really set up to really move forward. But then really kind of being more in the queue with the state for different opportunities like Superintendent Gallagher was just talking about.
And the other work that, we're doing is a comprehensive internship program, and just like the mayor said, there's different pathways, engineering pathway, I'm trying to think what the manufacturing pathway. So the
plus there's the medical is an interesting one just because of our proximity to the hospital as well.
So there'll be a lot of opportunities, but so we wanted to pilot one that we felt would be successful, and not apply for a lot to, take on too much. That was one warning we received from some other districts, that just focus on your first one, do it well, and then you have like the system in place to add others. So it's a great opportunity, and a lot of work has gone into that to get us to the phase that we're at right now.
That's great. So we will have that news in time to reflect it in the budget.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
couple slides myself. First of all, I just once again want to thank our school council, all your work, and all of our budget holders and principals for all of their work. So this really just kicks us off to a lot of, as you all know, we're going to go back, we revise and fall within, I think, a comfortable city appropriation, and then also us to continue to move the district forward. So just on, I'm not going to go through all of these because you've seen a lot of level service budget that we did last week. Building and grounds, you heard from Steve about the capital improvement. As we all know, contracted services in his department, we anticipate an increase, and then an increase in utilities and supplies by about $175,000. So we've been talking about that the last couple of weeks. There's no additional expenses in health services, curriculum instruction and assessment. Ms. Ippolito and her team has done a great job in planning for the future, so there's no additional expenses in that department. Special education, it all ties back to our in-level service budget, so we know contracted services will be an increase, obviously out-of-district tuition, and then the transportation increases for the bid. Under operations, very important, as we talked about the security system, and we're in the process of moving forward of all of those security upgrades, but the one piece that would be helpful in the capital improvement plan is $100,000 for our 911 phone system upgrade. The restructuring we went over last week, as things go through with that, we estimate $100,000 savings in that area. And then on-site daycare program, TBD. So this is another idea that we heard from our faculty over the couple of years. So we, Pam Kelly and I went out to Ipswich daycare, Tiger Tots. I thought it was, potato tots there, but no, so this was a program, so their daycare program has been in existence for about 20 years now. So we went over there and really sat down with the staff, got an idea on how they developed their space and how their program works. And then we just, obviously we knew a lot of the benefits, but we actually got to meet with staff, and a lot of the benefits for us, especially as we're looking at teacher retention, especially for the teachers that are coming in into the business now or into education. What can we do to keep them here employed in Newburyport? So one of the aspects that we were looking at is it possible to have a daycare for the in-district staff, exactly what they're doing in Ipswich. So a lot of our research showed that it's a cost-neutral program because you're taking in tuition for the daycare program. Other benefits, a lot of the faculty, they don't have high turnover, especially for their newer teachers and employees into the district. And then the other piece, we go right back to pathways. They're utilizing their daycare program as a pathway for preschool. So when we were visiting, we saw some of the high school seniors as part of their internship program working in their preschool program and the daycare program. So this was something that we thought we could do. We're taking a look at it now. We looked at the furniture, the equipment, the regulations, because we already have an existing preschool program. The daycare program would tie into under those regulations. So you're not running, you would just not running a totally separate program. It's part of the preschool program. And then we're looking at the space behind, there's a big space behind the stage right now that we're looking at to see if we could house the daycare program in the Brez, which would tie directly to the preschool program. That's why we said to be determined. So this is something that I think would be as we said, a great addition to our district, and then also listening to the needs of our faculty and support staff over the years, so. And we'll probably have some more details on this as we move forward. But it would be a cost neutral, and that was the other piece. And what was great about Ipswich is during COVID, the district valued this program so much that they kept people employed, even though there was not, and obviously people weren't coming to school, so there was no need for the daycare program. But that really showed me how important this is for them, is that they kept that program open during the COVID years. So when COVID, when we all came back, that program's thriving. They do have a waiting list, because a lot of the employees want to take advantage of it, so. But I figured we'll end on a positive note there, And I think that's all I have, and just our next steps, as we always do. Foundational level service we presented. Today is the preliminary budget, and we'll work with our budget holders, and we'll do team deliberations where we analyze staffing patterns. Can we reallocate funds throughout the district to fund these and start to bring down, I'm going to be talking about a grant that we talked about for the security grant. And there's other grants and revolving accounts that we'll take a harder look at. Step 4, as we always do, ongoing budget updates to the school committee between now and to the final vote. And then the ultimate goal will be to have a final budget presentation for school committee on April 23rd. And you all have a new budget book where, that's April 23rd is your final project. So.
Go ahead.
I love this. I'm so glad you guys will get into the daycare. I think that is awesome, and really appreciate that taking that initiative. I think it's just a great thing. So thank you. And maybe if it's not cost neutral the first year, maybe you need to talk to us about that, because I think rolling out a program like that, if there's a little startup costs,
Yep.
It might be beneficial in the long run. My other question was not for you, it's for the mayor. When is the capital improvement plan meeting? Or is that now rolled into the budget?
It's rolled into the budget.
Okay, so when would we, if we were school committee members, wanted to put a plug in for the rug or the phone system?
So when you all pass the budget,
Yeah.
that'll be included into the budget.
Okay, so there's no other working meeting that we should try to go to for the CIP in advance?
No, I think typically when the superintendent appears before the Budget and Finance Committee, they
roll
talk
those
about
two
not only
in.
the budget, but they'll talk about their their CIP.
Okay, thank you.
And typically, we've gone in the past as school committee members to
Yeah, exactly.
support the superintendent and also advocate for those budgets.
Okay, thank you.
I know in the
Was
past.
last year the first year that those were together?
Together, yep.
Yeah, so that's new. Okay.
I know in the past, Mr. Callahan, didn't we do a priority list? A letter to city council of a priority list, and it
We
was
have
signed
done.
by the school?
CIP?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Right, that was last year, I think.
Was
Right,
that last year?
Steve whittled
Year
it down to
before, I
like
think.
top five or something like
five.
that.
Can I ask another question?
And they said no to all of them.
Yeah, when was the last time a school committee project got funded by the CIP? Does anyone know that?
Last year, I think last year we did. The year before we didn't.
Oh, I thought last year we didn't get anything.
No, remember we had the
last year
the
was-
elevator project?
Okay.
We had to open up the school because the elevator.
I mean, that was a code thing, that was
That was a rush.
required.
Yeah.
Right, but I think we have some data on that too.
Yeah, it'd be
that-
nice to know that.
To see when the funding over the capital improvement.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Sidetrack.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Committee Member Walker was saying. That's a really exciting prospect. So this is just support, and then a question. I mean, anecdotally, and you got to be careful with this because you don't want to out people. I know of at least 2 or 3 truly exceptional people on your staff that you would possibly lose in the next couple of years without that, and that's just like potentially amazing. I know childcare could be tricky from a certification standpoint from the state, like, how quickly could something like that happen?
I think it's because we already have an existing preschool program, so that was one of the pieces with the daycare in Ipswich. Since they already have a existing preschool, they can tie in the daycare, so it's not like a whole separate regulations with that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're gonna go back. We wanted to present this first, and then we're gonna keep working on this for details, with hopefully to get something up and running as soon as we can.
Great.
But we're also gonna have Michelle look at, our attorney's gonna look at everything too, so to make sure everything's copacetic. Yeah.
Do we have any data on how much staff would be interested in something like this?
Yeah, we sent out a survey, and how many was the interest right now?
We had very high interest.
Like ballpark?
We had 40 staff.
40 staff. Yeah.
Including staff that have not even had their child yet.
I don't know if that counts, but whatever we can do to spark some love out there, I think that's great.
2035, we're booked, sorry.
Like, hold on, hun, next year.
I know it probably makes it more difficult, but I mean, I do think, I think we should always be looking at ways to retain staff, not just at our schools, but across the city as well. So, I mean, I would like, hopefully, that we can think about maybe opening this up to the city as well, which, again, that's when you get on waiting lists and things like that, but that could be something I know, some departments would take advantage of.
Yeah. All right.
Now, would the daycare be like 6 weeks up?
What's that?
Would the daycare start with babies as young
How
as
young?
6 weeks? Up to...
Was it 6? It was...
So the
6 months?
the plan that we're looking at would have infants starting at 6 weeks, and it would go to kindergarten age.
Okay.
They would be separated by age based on requirements of programs.
I assume the biggest challenge is the space.
Space.
Right.
Yeah, and the same for Ipswich. They, as I said, they have a waiting list. And the space we looked at theirs, and ours might be actually a little bit bigger.
Ours is bigger.
Yeah.
And newer.
Bigger and newer.
Express.
Because the daycare for us would be in that one area. So, yeah, so we'll look at it. But yeah, so if we have about 40 staff that would be interested.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
We're going to see the spike in population when. We're going to contribute, this was the moment.
So I think we're all set with that, unless there were any other questions.
I think we're, all right.
Have a seat while we talk about the calendar. Thank you all for coming in.
I'm just going to stay.
Okay. Next ride to bus tomorrow.
Okay, so up next, we have the calendar for 2024, 2025, which we took a look at. You weren't here, Ms. Shaw, but we did take a look at this at our last meeting. I don't believe anything has changed, if you want to just confirm that, Superintendent, since
We
we
have
saw it a
not.
week ago?
No, we have not
Okay.
changed the calendar this time.
All right, well, I think we could start with a motion, and then we can have a little discussion, because I know Mr. Callahan will want to discuss.
Why would you
but-
presume that?
Would anyone like to just make a motion to approve the calendar?
So moved.
And I need a second.
Second?
Discussion? Mr. Callahan?
Sean, I do have one question. I'm just looking at the difference between last year and the current year and next year. There's 9 ER days. Does that sound right to you?
Yes.
3 or 4.
We typically.
I must just be missing something, because I'm looking at this year where there's a December early release on a Friday, and then the one before winter break as well, but that second one is missing in the proposed calendar. But how is that possible if it's the same number? Did we just move it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There still seems to be 9, so I must be counting wrong.
I understand.
What's your
This
question?
past December, there was an early release day on December 8th and then a second one on December 22nd, but the proposed calendar for next year,
Oh,
So you're
that
saying,
was-
where's the extra one?
where's the extra one?
That was on,
Probably shifted somewhere.
yeah, we didn't have. I
We had
think
2
that
in
was-
September last year, I think. No?
That early release, was that wasn't professional development that day, was it?
Oh, I think it was, the one was December 20th, I don't have the
23rd,
calendar in front of me.
right.
It would have to do with the holidays.
That was the holiday,
and
right.
stuff where
That was a
next
half a
year-
day for everybody. It wasn't a full.
Not a PD, not a,
Yeah,
right,
it was
okay.
not a, that's probably what, yeah.
That would make sense, right, because now once we get past the leap year, we're like 2 days out.
Right.
And so I think it was one of those days where it may have been a contractual thing. Yeah, but not a professional development day. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Were there any other questions or comments?
Yeah, my same comment I always have. The ER days should be on before Monday holidays or vacation weeks, because it's a big pain for parents to have that half day, despite Commissioner Riley's terrible way at counting chronic absenteeism. He's welcome to come to one of the meetings.
Just move on, I mean.
Invitation, huh?
Yeah.
Well, as we all know, the new accountability system utilizes attendance regardless if they're excused absence or not excused absence. So when you put those days against the vacation weeks, and I think we kind of did a compromise, but over the years, we've done a compromise. But they're very high attendance absent rates on those days for kids, which is now being counted against. All attendance is being utilized as an accountability.
Hopefully his replacement will look into that math.
Did we ever look into how many kids who didn't go to school those days, that those were, it's what's over 10 days for chronically absent?
18.
18?
10%.
10%. So 18 days total.
Total.
So did we ever look into how many kids who typically would miss those days? Because I know we did do data on that, right? How many
We did
who
data,
but also were chronically absent kids?
Yeah, so for our next, I think I have on the 18th to kind of show the breakdown. So we do have chronically absent students that need support. Then we have a group of students who actually just had regular illness, and then we're over. And then we do have some students, like vacation time stuff. So I'm kind of breaking that data down. For us, the portion of the students that need support, it's kind of across the board. So the attendance message, I think for our community, it's important because so I think some people will take vacations, which is, but then all of a sudden they come back and then, strep throat or something like that. So although academically they're still doing well, but their attendance is used against the district. So there's even if there's a good excuse, parent excuse, doctor's notes, the state looks at absent as absent, regardless if there's excuse, good reason. So I think that's, some of the data.
Required by COVID policy.
Not anymore, but.
Yeah,
Right,
but
yeah.
people don't, they're not coming, when they're sick or they have colds, they're not coming to school. So I think that's kind of the.
You can go to Florida, you can go to school with measles,
Let's not go there.
And not learn history.
I do respect that all by the state and all that stuff. I just will reiterate that the families who are going to take off on a half day before a Monday are going to take off on that Friday before the vacation week anyway. I don't think it's going to stop the vacation families from taking vacations. So the number's not going to change.
Well, I do think next year that'd be a good data point to look at. So we've had really 2 full years that really shouldn't be affected by COVID. So like, if if we're missing days, now that we're not backing them up on the vacation, are they comparable? If they're about the same amount of absences either way, then I would say just back them up against the vacation days, because people are taking those off anyways, so.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
but they're not. I mean, you do have those numbers. We were looking at that the other day, and it's almost double the number of absences when you put the early release right before the vacation.
From that 1 year that we did
For
it?
that day, yeah. We did it for
Just-
2 years.
2 years?
back
So
then.
that's the rationale for balancing it out.
Okay, that would be good to share, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think,
Will that be part of your presentation at the
Yeah,
next
we can-
meeting?
Absolutely, on the 18th. So we can also, as we said before, next year's a negotiation year, and we can really just take a look at all of the early releases and professional development time and really maybe take a whole outside the box look at that and try to get the bang for the buck, so you're not, having a lot of these half days throughout the school year. So we have some ideas on that we can share.
Great. Anyone else?
Just for edification on the ramifications, because some families are not aware of this, and I know Ms. Higgins has some strong, good thoughts on this. When you say it's held against the district by the state, what are the potential ramifications?
We have like our accountability data.
No, I understand that, but like what potentially, what could be the negative ramifications of that?
You'll have to do like corrective action
Okay.
plans and stuff like that. It's just a data point, but it's an important data point, but it's something that we're compared with throughout the state. So the whole idea is to get our attendance rates pre-COVID as a district. And I think we've shown a lot of growth going that way, the pre-COVID attendance rates. Like the high school met their goal, the other schools didn't. So that's the whole goal of the state, is to get the attendance rates pre-COVID.
Sure.
So.
Okay, right.
And then every year you don't do that, then you have to do corrective action plans and kind of what you're doing to address that. So adding more vacation time for Mrs. Callen probably wouldn't be part of the state's.
Corrective measures.
Oh, no, I wouldn't want to be part of the group.
All right.
Can I just mention,
yes, please.
if we could just reference the policy IC/ICA, which is why we have to approve this.
Thank you. Sorry, we slipped on that.
That's okay,
Could you add that into the motion, Ms. Yell? Thank you. Any other discussion?
I do think next year, though, like I said, I've kind of come around on the calendar stuff. Like, I liked having it so cut and dry, like if it falls on this date here, this date there. But now that Juneteenth is a thing, like I do think we should really strongly talk about this being before Labor Day every year.
Well, if we redo the contract and they can do the
that's what I mean,
work
next year that's
days
gonna happen.
before Labor Day, then you solve that problem.
Yeah.
All right. Are we all set? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Present.
That's right.
Did you get? Present from Mr. Callahan. Okay, so we're going to move on to the subcommittee updates, starting with you, Mr. Callahan.
FinCom has not met, but we meet on the 14th along with, I have my notes here.
We invite everyone to that meeting?
I
Is
am
that-
gonna say that, yeah.
Terrific,
yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. I have my notes and I can't find them. Here we go. Meeting the 14th at 5 PM at the Knock Library. That's right, Sean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, I didn't know that.
Counselors Zeed, Khan, and Harmon will be there, and Representative Don Shand. Hopefully in person, possibly via Zoom. It's a meeting of the whole for both city council and school committee, so all members are welcome and members of the public. People who don't know, it's a somewhat informal where we are in the budget process. I guess kind of keep the city council up to date because they're not at our meetings generally. Last year was the first one. I thought it was worked out well, and we'll just do it again. See how it
Can you
goes.
say that when it is again?
It is the 14th at 5 o'clock
It's a Thursday.
at the Knock.
So it's our usual
So our
meeting
normal meeting
date,
day,
But
Yeah,
just we moved it to 5 p.m.
5, not 6, okay.
and not, and we don't have a morning one.
Right.
It
Thank you.
replaces that. What's up?
Thank you. Ms. Walker, policy?
I don't think I have any updates from last time we talked.
All right, great. Mr. Callahan, back to you for fundraising advisory.
No updates.
Okay, and you'll let me know, we'll have a presentation coming up on your findings from that?
Ms. Walker and I have to talk about meeting, when we
just
can do that.
Let me know. Great. So, back to you, Ms. Walker. I think there hasn't been a CISL meeting, right?
Right.
So that was very quick. Okay. Superintendent's report.
All right, I'll try to be just as quick. School choice suggestions at this point. I just run down the list so you have the numbers. Working with the principals through the budget process, but also part of our agenda item was to have them look at openings. So we're looking at grade 2, open up 7 slots. Grade 1 would be 0, grade 3 would be 0. Grade 4, right now we're looking at 3. In grade 5, we're looking at 3. Grade 6, we would look at 15.
Wow.
Let me just see, make sure I get the right numbers there. Grade 7, 10. In grade 8, 10. Grade 9, annually, Indy usually has around 20. So we're gonna go 20, and then grade 10, 10, grade 11, 0, and grade 12, 0. And then the kindergarten, we talked about this a lot last year. That's something that we monitor. But just so you know, this year's kindergarten is the highest. Right now, our enrollment's 149. So that's the highest enrollment we've had in a long time. And then last year, grade 1 inherited 11 additional students. So if let's just say we took those numbers, if 149 moves into grade 1 next year and then gets the additional 11. That's why Ms. Sokolowski's looking for that, that extra teacher at grade 1 to accommodate those students. So kindergarten's always tricky because there's something you got to monitor, throughout.
But even with the extra teacher in first grade, though, there would not be any projected
'cause that's-
choice openings?
Right.
Okay.
That's one of the biggest classes that we've had since I've been here for kindergarten, with 149.
So we're at 8 sections of kindergarten now. Is that still something that we could look at? I know it takes longer to make those projections with kindergarten enrollment, but
Yeah, that's
just like we
something-
did last
Yeah,
year, could
did
we
all the
look
way
at
up
those
till-
numbers?
Yeah, we
and
monitor that, we look at kindergarten signups, and then I think last year, all the way into June, at our last meeting, we
It
were
was
still.
one of our last meetings, yeah.
And we decided not to open it at that time. But that's something that we plan on doing. Kindergarten's usually the later one.
Right.
But we'll continue to monitor that.
Okay, great.
Just for the people at home, when does we typically open it so people can actually inquire about school choice?
Yeah, we've had, Ms. Yell's been getting a lot of inquiries about school choice. Once we have these numbers, we'll post it on the website, and then we do an advertisement in the newspaper.
Don't we have to vote on school choice?
You do have to vote.
Okay, but we can't vote tonight because we didn't get any of this information in advance.
No, we weren't planning on voting
No.
tonight. These are just projections.
Got it. When will we be voting?
On the 18th.
Yeah, people can still send it in if we don't
Yeah,
open them.
most
then we don't
people send
open them.
information in.
Yeah.
And then even when Michelle's done a great job, because even when people inquire, we have a list that once this is done, we'll call them back to, the ones that have reached out to the office.
Is that it? So I had a parent ask me today about it, because the page on the website that says like coming soon or whatever it says. But so people can send in just a letter of interest without using that, whatever that form is. I don't even know what that is supposed to look
No,
like.
yeah, no, you can't.
Michelle's saying no.
There's no list. I keep lists of inquiries just to give that information to the
Okay.
superintendent, to give him an idea of what kind of calls we're getting, but
Okay, and then once that happens, you say you have to go fill this out.
Right, once it's officially open.
Nothing formal is happening yet.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh.
I think, yeah. That's you.
What's happening here? Getting nervous. All right. Next, kind of some good news on a competitive grant, genocide education grant. So Mr. Marcos, Ms. Groskin, and Ms. Parsons, they wrote this grant, which is really teaching about the Holocaust through the culture and the arts. So we were awarded $40,000. A big piece of that, we're going to be working with the award-winning play Terrorism, Children of the Holocaust. So that will be part of, and right now, the part of that funding to bring that play in to the middle school, and then also additional professional development through the DSE on curriculum, and really work on the constructive dialogue that goes along, with that topic. And then also curriculum materials. So we haven't got the official letter, we got the official email, but we're waiting from the governor. So this is just something that's going to be, just really enhance the work that we're already doing at the middle school. The other piece, or the other grant, is the COPS Secure Our Schools Grant, or SOS grant, and that's under the Green Light Grant Initiatives. As you all know, Matthew McConaughey, the shooting that happened in Texas, him and his wife have really speared up school safety. So this federal grant provides funds to the state and local and other governments to assist with the development of school safety resources. So the one area that we fit is security upgrades already in progress or already in place. So that big security upgrade that I presented, there's a good opportunity for us to get additional funds. Once again, significant funds, up to $500,000 for a lot of those security upgrades. So we're working on that now. The grant has not been released yet. It's going to be released, they say, in mid-March, and we're working with a couple other districts that applied last year and received it. So we're going to work with them on how to write this grant, but this is could be huge for a lot of the stuff that we want to do. And then maybe we'll get to meet Matthew McConaughey along the way. So, good
His
guy,
wife.
good actor.
All right, all right.
And his wife.
And his wife, yes, yes. So that's some great things that we're in the progress of. And then Newburyport's been very blessed, I guess, by the state, because we've had all this tiered focused monitoring. We've had 4. So we're completed the special ed tiered focused monitoring, and we're waiting for that report. We did the tiered focused monitoring for food service, and now Miss Ippolito and her team have completed the tiered focused monitoring for the L program, and then also our title grant. So she has some good news on the L program, and I'll let her speak to that. But once we're done with all this monitoring, we'll be good for a couple of years, so there you go.
Hey, everyone.
Hi.
So I have some great news to share, but first I'm just going to talk about the tiered, it's actually now called Targeted and Focused Monitoring Program. So I'll start with the L department. And so it's a 6-year cycle. So every 6 years, the district has this review, and it's based on 12 different areas of criteria around our department. And we start off by doing a self-assessment and submitting that to the state. So they review it, and then they give us feedback. Then from there, we go into the verification stage, and that basically means they give us a list of student names. So interestingly enough, we did 2 rounds of that this time. So we had our first group of 15 students where they asked for specific items individually by student. So it wasn't like one size fits all. And then once we did that, they were so interested they wanted another 15 students individually. So kudos to Chris Apicios, who's the L coordinator, I'm the L director, for pulling that together, as well as our EL staff. Just last Wednesday, we had 8 staff members who were interviewed by DESE from the OLA department, and there were 4 classroom teachers who had 15-minute interviews about our program, what they know about the program, how the program works, how we welcome students into the program, how we exit students from the program, what communication do we have, and family engagement. And then our L staff had a 30-minute interview. And then Mrs. Pisios had a 90-minute interview, and then I had a 90-minute interview. It was just such a great experience to take all our work and pull it together, because it's a marvelous team between the L department and the classroom teachers. And I'm just really excited to share that I look back at the last 3 cycles, and this is the first cycle where we have no findings at all.
That's great.
And so we got a lot of accommodations at the state level of the work that we do with our students to support our L students in their education and their families in terms of engagement. So we are thrilled. We were so excited. We were waiting on the edge of our seats to get that report. And so what will happen next, because there aren't any findings, there isn't going to be a formal report, but the school committee as well as the superintendent will be receiving messaging from the state, formal messaging around the state. But it was too good to not share tonight, seeing I was talking about it anyway. And then we have submitted our title grants, TFM. So we received Title I funding, Title II, and Title IV-A. And so through that funding, Title I, for example, we look at student improvement, and we focus on the area of literacy, particularly early literacy. So we use funding to fund, superintendent had said last time, we were cut 54% this past year. So that limited what we could do with the funding, but we supported one of our Title I teachers as well as some supplies and materials. For our Title II funding, we use that for some mentoring, we use that for some professional development, and our Title IV grant we utilize for translations and interpretations outside of some other, my operational budget as well as some other grant opportunities. So that one, we're just waiting to hear. It's under review. That was changed from past TFMs. It was a lot more detailed, and they used a new platform called CHAMPS. So you uploaded lots of information into a digital portfolio, and they go through and they check off what they see, what they might need more of, and then we go back and forth and exchange that data and information. And I also want to thank Kelly Gabarino, who's our literacy coach, K-5, for helping me with gathering the massive amounts of documentation. But we felt good because it's a good process to go through for checks and balances of what we do for kids every day. So.
Sounds like a blast. Well done.
Yeah. Congratulations, all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it?
That's it,
That's your
yeah.
whole
That's it.
report? Okay. Do we have any new business?
I just want to bring up the meet and greet with, forgetting his last name, Brad Brooks.
Yes.
For CPAC, because we had a lot of emails about what's going on with CPAC and where is it.
Oh,
And
yeah, that's not listed here.
Yeah, that's the 13th at the Knock at 6. For anybody looking, actually, you're doing with CPAC, right, Kathleen? Did you get any other parents to join up? I know that former member Spalding was almost interested.
Sounds promising.
Make that public.
Yeah, I've been doing a little recruiting.
Okay,
We'll see.
that's it.
Okay. There's no other new business?
I'll just say, as regards to Whittier, and it feeds into the interviews earlier, but Wednesday is our first Whittier Task Force meeting, and we're going to start.
This Wednesday.
This Wednesday,
right.
yep. We're going to start
Okay.
talking about the regional agreement.
Great. Anyone else? My motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.